This is a summary of LUO GUANZHONG's The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. This will be covering chapters 91 all the way to number 120. With the update of this tablet, we have lost some colors once again, but we have gained some new colors. Instead of pink, we now have purple. I never before seen color on my videos. Let's get this started with LUO GUANZHONG's The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. In chapter 91, there's basically a lot that's going on. Remember that Xu Yende and Cao Cao and Guan Yu and Zhang Fei and pretty much all the major players in the Three Kingdoms at this point are all dead at this point. And they have all been succeeded by their sons. Remember that son that one of Liu Bei, aka Shende's generals, went ahead and said when he was still a baby? Well, that son is now the new emperor, and he is very, very incompetent. Now, what do you mean by very, very incompetent? Well, he is basically a best, but we already talked about how he was able to get Ming, aka Zhuge Liang, to go ahead and help him with the preparations and the announcements and the invasions against like Wu and Wei. Here, what proceeds to happen is that they decide to go ahead and press their luck and go on an offensive and start an offensive campaign against Wei. Basically, they want to go ahead and destroy Cao Cao's reign forever and ever. The emperors, of course, are ready to agree all on this, mostly because that he has pretty much nothing else to agree on, and he's inexperienced. And this time, Zhuge Liang will be taking the lead too. None of the Tiger Generals, except one of them, are left. And with that one Tiger General, he goes ahead and proceeds on his campaign. He proceeds to get into the invasion, and he's doing really, really well until like one of the guys from the other side starts to mess up his plans. That guy being a guy named Jiang Wei. And after lots and lots of cunning, Ming, aka Zhuge Liang, manages to go ahead and get Jiang Wei onto his side. So from now on, I'm going to be drawing him in cyan. So Jiang Wei, now converted to the Shu Han side and will become Zhuge Liang's protege, is going ahead and they keep invading Wei. Once they go ahead and start invading Wei, what happens next is that Ming needs to secure his supply lines, and because the supply lines that he had previously were destroyed by none truly Jiang Wei, or at least any hope of actually defending that supply line, Jiang Wei himself is now on his side, so that's not a problem. He needs to go ahead and realize that he needs his opponent, aka Sima Yi, some guy named Sima Yi, who's also about as smart as him, but probably a little bit dumber than him, to go ahead and distort most of his plans that were in fruition from the state of Wu. This guy's a very, very big pain in the butt for him, so he manages to somehow get him deposed, and then he realizes after a little bit of campaigning that because Wu is starting to have a little bit of a success and the empty place where he was thrown out, and he's now reinstated. Sima Yi is basically reinstated. This is really bad news for Ming, and because it is bad news for Ming, he needs to supply his supply lines, as I've been said a few minutes ago. Now, those supply lines are going to be attacked soon by an enemy, and he needs to send someone to go ahead and defend this enemy. Who does he send? Well, there's this guy named Ma Su. Ma Su is like, me. I read all the books of war. I know how to do this. And so he's like, he's not really sure about this because this guy has zero actual military experience. But he has read a bunch of books, most notably Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And this is pretty much the only war book that he goes ahead and knows about. And so, yes, he goes ahead and agrees to his request, Ma Su being over here. Ma Su is sent over there, and then he's like, let's go, I need to go ahead and do all this. He is, however, sent with a little convoy to go ahead and try to temper him and try to get him to be, a bit humble and realize the flaws in his plan. Ma Su goes ahead and proceeds to do everything according to plan, and then ultimately fails in the task, getting the supply lines unsecure. And so as a result, the guy goes ahead and realizes, hey, that was a little too easy. Also, this guy inexperienced. This gonna be easy win. Easy. And goes ahead and goes in for the kill. Ma Su is swiftly defeated, as I just said earlier. And I love repeating all my stuff, okay? It's a bad habit, I suppose. But it's a habit that you guys are stuck with. Ming then proceeds to realize that his plan is starting to a little bit fall apart. And then because some of the eunuchs and the imperial court that are going ahead and tending towards the emperor are all like scheming against the emperor. And he's like, hey, you know, your Kong Ming, you know, the guy who advised your father in all his battles, well, he's plotting to go ahead and take the throne away from you. You better do something with him quickly, otherwise he'll do something. So the emperor, convinced by all this, proceeds to go ahead and send a letter of recall to Kong Ming. Kong Ming receives the letter, realizes what's happening, knowing that there are rebels, mostly because he went ahead and punished a guy named Ado instead of killing him. He should have killed the guy, but his advisors advise him not to because he's a little too valuable, and he's all like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make him pay for this. And so he goes ahead and comes back to the capital, not before going ahead and getting his enemy to retreat. So there's a disastrous campaign, of course, and then I'm probably oversimplifying a lot over here, but he goes ahead. Kong Ming, aka Zhuge Liang, goes ahead and proceeds to play a lyre on top of a city of gates. And then his greatest enemy, Sima Yi, arrives at the gate, and he's all like, wait a minute, something's up. Let's take a look. He has a bunch of armies. I know that. Why does it look empty? Also, there are a bunch of street sweepers, but they're actually soldiers. And this guy, Zhuge Liang, he's all the way on that hill, all exposed. Not even caring about the world. He wouldn't expose himself like this unless he has some sort of plan. And so he's like, maybe I should. No, I should not. And then he proceeds to go ahead and retreat. And then he hears the gongs of drums, and he's like, ha! It was a trap. I outsmarted Zhuge Liang again. Later, and he proceeds to get ambushed a lot on the way home. But then, like, he managed to brush them all off and survive. It wasn't until like a very long while later that Sima Yi realizes that there was no ambush to begin with, and that he has to go ahead and he just basically let Zhuge Liang Kong Ming escape. When he returns home, he's all like, alright, so you hit my... He goes ahead and proceeds to go on different campaigns. This is around the time when he goes ahead and receives his letter of recall because of his, you're too good, so we need you here, we think you're bad. And so this guy realizes what's happening and proceeds to go ahead and finish up everything that he has in here. And as a result, when he comes back in front of his beloved emperor, he's all like, why the heck did you go ahead and call me back? We almost won against Wei. And the emperor himself, realizing that this was all just a ruse to get him like his most needed man away from the border, is like, no, I just missed you. That's the best excuse that he could find. Zhuge Liang then proceeds to go ahead and assassinate, aka kill, all of the people who conspired against him, albeit Ado, the guy who was the main conspirator, managed to escape. After this, Kong Ming proceeds to go ahead and do a bunch of other stuff. The state of Wu is now established officially now. It's officially a state now, with Sun Quan declaring himself the emperor of Wu now. And because now he is a part of the emperor club, things are going to get wild. Now you can see that we have 3 kingdoms. On the north part, we have Cao Cao's kingdom. And on the southern part, we have we have the Shu Han kingdom. And then on like the southern eastern part, we have this guy, Sun Quan's family. And they managed to go ahead and stay like this for a while. They go ahead, they rest up a little, they have relative peace for about 3 years, when Zhuge Liang proceeds to say, I need to invade the north one more time so I can go ahead and achieve the dreams of my master. And he proceeds to do so, but this time with a little bit less support, and this time he's facing off against a very well-known enemy now. A bunch of other shenanigans happens. Kong Ming goes ahead and does a bunch of his other tricks too. He manages to kill someone using the classic emotional damage, aka tell them that they're sinning against the Han Dynasty, and that they're very old, so they're going to meet the Han Dynasty emperors again. So how can he go and face these guys? And he says, "Be gone." This proceeds to do the emotional damage, and the guy dies. It's 1000% guaranteed effective. At this point, Kong Ming finally realizes in his 5th and final campaign that he is going to fall ill, because he just consulted the stars, and after trying a fire attack against like the Sima Yi, the rains start to go ahead and pour down from the heavens. And because when rain pours down to go ahead and quench a fire to save your enemy, it usually means that the heavens favor your enemy. And so Kong Ming realizes that the mandate of heaven for the Han Dynasty is up, and that he needs to go ahead and give this all up. He proceeds to realize that he has until tomorrow to die, and then he dies. Sima Yi decides to take advantage of the situation, notified that Kong Ming is dead. He's like, you sure this is not just one of his other tricks? And he goes ahead and proceeds to make sure that he really is not dead, once he is super super confirming that he really is dead. But then he goes ahead and proceeds to see a Kong Ming like figure in the distance with Kong Ming's facial expressions and stuff like that, and the commanding army all the way there to attack and intercept Sima Yi. They proceed to engage, and then he realizes what's happening and he says, "Retreat, retreat!" And so Sima Yi and his troops go ahead and retreat. But then they find out that the Zhuge Liang, aka Kong Ming person that they found there was actually just a statue of Kong Ming, aka Zhuge Liang. Zhuge Liang predicts what will happen after his death, goes ahead and gives out plans for Shu Han to do when stuff fails and what stuff happens and what to do when what happens. And Shu Han proceeds to do pretty well and hold their own for the rest of this war. What happens next, though, is that these three kingdoms go ahead and start handing down their lineages one by one, and soon by soon, we have none of the original three kingdoms left at all. Interesting thought, isn't it? And now this is in like the far future that Cao Cao's territory has been usurped by the emperor again, but this time one of the guys named one of the guys go ahead and proceeds to be able to take the entire dynasty himself by just manipulating the baby. This guy becomes known as the his advisors basically go ahead and usurp the throne. They proceed to go ahead and create their own new nation, and they call it the nation and empire of Jin, and proceeds to proclaim himself the first emperor of Jin. Obviously, nobody likes this, but he is at this point just highly outmatched. Mostly because the guys are fighting each other instead of fighting him, and so he's like, "I'm gonna be fine. I'm under the radar," which he proceeds to do so. And so Jin goes ahead and proceeds to take over the rest of the territories. They proceed to conquer Shu Han, and from there they go ahead and conquer Sun Quan's territories. And once again, all these three kingdoms have reunited as one. Now this is the reunification. And now that all Wu, Wei, and Shu Han are all connected and reunified all the way back to China, this cycle is now at the point where they go ahead and are. And now they have to go ahead and decide that they aren't real. Now they have to go ahead and decide how they should do their work and what they should do their work. So that is the end of the summary of chapters 91 to 120. It's a very sad 15 chapters at the end, and I can completely understand why they go ahead and take these chapters out in most adaptations. But it is necessary to know how this goes ahead and goes on for a second. And so that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Han Chen. I hope to see you guys soon. Until the next time, Shihan, peace. Bye bye.